Hello, citizens of
PlayStation.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world.
Ridge Racer!
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 2 of latest PS5. I'm your host Sonny, and a slight change, as we aforementioned last week, we were going to specifically do an episode on the SSD in the PS5. Small matter of the unveiling of the new controller happened yesterday, so we knew we were going to change the episode and talk about the DualSense. And who better to do it with? I'm here with the tech expert and the man himself, Mr. Alex Sylvester. How you doing?
Woo! How you doing, man? I need to get like a cheer or applause every time I come in. But yeah, how you doing, guys?
Excellent. Now, for obviously, this is only the second episode, so if you're new to the episode, I can imagine a lot of listeners, new listeners, jumping onto this show just because it's about the DualSense. I'm Sonny, I've been PlayStation throughout my life from the first launch day of the PS1 in the UK, or PlayStation in the UK. Alex, he's more broad-minded. He's PlayStation, he's Nintendo, he's Xbox, he's PC. Hell, he's even Leapfrog these days. But at the end of the day, the cool thing is you're getting opinions and analysis from a diehard PlayStation man and somebody who's got obviously broader knowledge of the entire landscape of hardware. But I mean, Alex, we're going to talk. We've got some questions from the listeners, which we'll get to at the end. But we're going to talk about nothing but the DualSense, which is a new controller. Before we get started and get your thoughts on it, I'm going to read the entire blog post, really, which unveiled the PlayStation 5 controller. I'll be really quick, so I'm going to talk really fast. There could be some listeners who haven't heard it. So this was on the PlayStation blog yesterday. We've reached an exciting milestone with PlayStation 5 as we're starting to ship our new controller in its final design to developers who are implementing its unique features into their games. But first, we wanted everyone in the PlayStation community to get a first look at the DualSense wireless controller and hear our vision for how the new controller will captivate more of your senses as you interact with the virtual worlds in PS5 games. The features of DualSense, along with PS5's Tempest 3D audio tech, will deliver a new feeling of immersion to players. When PS4 launched in 2013, the DualShock 4 wireless controller garnered a lot of positive feedback from gamers and developers for being the best PlayStation controller yet, and for introducing forward-looking features like the share button. This brought us to the next question: how do we build upon that success? After thoughtful consideration, we decided to keep much of what gamers love about DualShock 4 intact, while also adding new functionality and refining the design. Based on our discussions with developers, we concluded that the sense of touch within gameplay, much like audio, hasn't been a big focus for many games. We had a great opportunity with PS5 to innovate by offering game creators the ability to explore how they can heighten that feeling of immersion through our new controller. This is why we have adopted haptic feedback, which adds a variety of powerful sensations sensations you'll feel, sorry, I thought they had the typo, but it's me reading. Have a variety of powerful sensations you'll feel when you play, such as the slow grittiness of driving a car through mud. We also incorporated adaptive triggers into the L2 and R2 buttons of the DualSense so you can truly feel the tension of your actions, like when drawing a bow to shoot an arrow. This provided us with an exciting challenge to design a new controller that builds off the current generation, while taking into account the new features we were adding. For example, with adaptive triggers, we had to consider how the components would fit into the hardware without giving it a bulky feeling. Our design team worked closely with our hardware engineers to place the triggers and actuators. The designers were then able to draw the lines of how the exterior of the controller would look and feel, with a challenge of making the controller feel smaller than it really looks. In the end, we changed the angle of the hand triggers and also made some subtle updates to the grip. We also took thoughtful consideration into ways to maintain a strong battery life for DualSense's rechargeable battery and to lessen the weight of the controller as much as possible as new features were added. For the buttons, you'll notice there's no longer a share button as we had with the DualShock 4. don't worry, it's not going away. In fact, we've built upon the success of our industry-first share button to bring you a new create button feature. With Create, we're once again pioneering new ways for players to create epic gameplay content to share with the world or just to enjoy for themselves. We'll have more details on this feature as we get closer to launch. DualSense also adds a built-in microphone array which will enable players to easily chat with friends without a headset, ideal for jumping into a quick conversation. But of course, if you are planning to chat for a longer period, it's good to have a headset handy. Now let's talk about the colors. Traditionally, our base controllers have a single color. As you can see, we went a different direction this time around and decided on a two-tone design. Additionally, we changed the position of the light bar that would give it an extra pop on DualShock 4. It sat on the top of the controller. Now it sits on each side of the touchpad, giving it a slightly larger look and feel. In all, we went through several concepts and hundreds of mock-ups over the last few years before we settled on this final design. DualSense has been tested by a wide range of gamers with a variety of hand sizes in order for us to achieve the comfort level we wanted, with great ergonomics. Our goal with DualSense is to give gamers a feel of being transported into the game world as soon as they open the box. We want gamers to feel like the controller is an extension of themselves when they're playing, so much so that they forget that it's even in their hands. We are thrilled about sharing the final look of the DualSense controller with our fans, and we can't wait for everyone to get their hands on it. And then there was a message from Jim Ryan, which I'll get into later. So with that being said, Alex, first things first, your thoughts on how Sony just dropped it completely out of the blue. I mean, literally 1 minute you're sitting there, the whole world is sitting there not doing anything or doing what they're doing. Within 60 seconds, then one post, we now have our controller. So what was your thoughts on how they did it and your first initial thoughts on how it looks?
Okay, how they did it, I think Sony is definitely becoming one of the greatest artists of in knowing how to break the internet. I mean, they did it obviously with the Wired article. They did it with the specs. They did it with their logo. And so dropping the actual look of the actual pad was obviously sure to come to rave reviews and attention. And they're just brilliant. I just love the way they dropped it. It was just nice, simple, straight to the face. Here you go. Here's what we're doing now. Let's go forward. Which is just leaving Xbox again in the dust.
So what was your thoughts your first initial thoughts that went through your head, and then what was going through your head 60 seconds after that initial thought?
Right. First, I was like, what the fuck? Again? Do you know what I mean? And they're really trying to give man a heart attack. You know what I mean? We're just trying to come down, from the specs. You know what I mean? It's like, come on now. Let's just let's just go and ease it down. Give us some time to digest that. But yeah, after seeing the pad, I just thought, yeah, this is, I guess it kind of reminded me, we're getting into E3 territory, and it seemed like this was the schedule that they were going to be releasing the information potentially anyway, so it just kind of feels like this is what you would expect on the run up to E3, with the hope that they would actually launch the actual look of the system at the event. But yeah, when I first saw that, I thought, yeah, I was completely shocked. But then when looking at the pad, I thought, wow, that looks like an Xbox pad, doesn't it? No, but truth be told, I mean, it's definitely, if I was to sum it into one word, sexy would definitely have to be plastered all over it. I think it's a great design, great use of colors, and definitely gets the wow factor from me. How about yourself?
Oh, mate, I was sitting down on the couch. I had kids under each arm. We were watching a film, and I'd have seen this film about 50 times. If any fathers are listening, you know what I'm on about. We've watched the film 50 times. We're watching it for the 51st time. And I thought, okay, I'm at an angle. Let me just check my phone. Bam, there it was. Kids went flying from under my arms. And I was just like, I need to read this. Get away from me. And when I first looked at it, again, same thing. Shock, just out of the blue. Again, just like bang, from nothing to everything. And it was just like, wow. And again, first thing that actually popped in my head was something that you said last week on the episode 1, which is that expect Sony to drip feed the way they're going to do it because it's working.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, and you said it, instead of giving you everything in one shot. They're just drip feeding it to us, breadcrumbs, all the way to the eventual console and games. So that was my initial thought. And then when I saw when I like studied and looked at it, I fell in love, bro. It looks beautiful, and the first thing that popped in my head, the first thing I noticed was obviously the mic on there, which we'll get into in a bit. But then, as you just look around at the different angles of the controller, and you're zooming in and you're looking, and I just thought, oh, this is beautiful. And then the dread came in. Oh my God, it's white. It's going to get dirty. So I'm going to have to clean this pad all the time, man. But my initial thought, I love the way Sony dropped it. The funny thing is, somebody said, "Oh, they could have had more." And again, going back to episode 1, mindshare is the most important thing. And what happened? The moment Sony did it and they blew the internet up, Microsoft quickly posted something about their pad, or a video or something like that, and it was just like they didn't have the same traction.
Yeah, it didn't have the same attention.
It's just following second fiddle at the moment, which is obviously really, really interesting. But it wasn't like a kick in the balls like what Sony was doing to them with the PS4 and Xbox One, at E3. It's a bit of fun, that they're both having with each other at the moment, but it seems to be that Sony's setting the trend on when anything goes or anything moves. But yeah, pad looked beautiful. And going back to the mic, just talking about the features, Alex. So obviously, the big new feature in the DualSense is the built-in mic on the PlayStation 5 pad, which is obviously letting players quickly jump into chats without the use of a headset.
That's a really feature. Very nice feature. Without the use of a headset, and I guess with their advanced audio as well, this is just going to be, I guess, playing quite nicely with that, really. Because at first I was thinking, is there going to be some distortion between obviously hearing, other players as well as the game playing as well, and then you got the mic, there's going to be a lot of computational power just to get a clear audio through. But I think obviously we've seen they're going leaps and bounds in terms of audio, so I think it's going to be a perfect accessory for anybody who doesn't have a headset to just get in and play games. If you want to talk smack or shit, then go do it. You know what I mean?
I mean, one thing that they didn't mention, or I'm sure they never mentioned it, was, with the DualShock 4, now if developers use it, we get sounds out of the controller. So theoretically, I should be able to chat to you without a headset, and when you chat to me, I can just hear it through the controller. If that works, and then and it's not messing with the audio off the TV. Oh my God, that's amazing.
I think, I guess with advances in noise cancellation technology, Sony's, they're used to that. They do it with the phones as well. So they'll definitely be incorporating. I'll be surprised if they don't incorporate it into the PS5. They could make it so that you could definitely hear yourself coming through or you could hear players through the speakers of a TV or even the pad, and it would actually cancel out, so there's no feedback for either party. So it'd be interesting to see if they do go on that route. I hope they do.
Nice little transition there. You mentioned feedback, so haptic feedback, Alex. Obviously, haptic feedback, which is advanced rumble that adds a variety of powerful sensations when you feel when you play, such as the slow grittiness of driving a car through mud. So very similar to the ice cubes and the marble demos when the Switch was coming out, and people got to mess around with it. But then it's such a weird thing. You take it for granted, don't you? You think, oh, this isn't going to do anything. But then when you notice it and you play it, you're like, oh my God. And Gran Turismo is a perfect demo of it. And if you remember back to the Wired articles, the writer of that article talked about being given the opportunity to hold a debug controller, and he could feel everything on the road, gravel to mud to tarmac, everything, So, obviously they really are changing it, but you must be happy with haptic feedback, because I know you're a big person when it comes to controllers and how they're feeling. Of
course. Let's just say, first of all, we need to take a moment to thank Nintendo. We should just inject the applause in there. Yeah, come on, man. Obviously they're the ones who brought haptic feedback into, I guess, the commercial mass market, and it's worked very well. You've had both.
They call it HD Rumble, isn't it?
HD Rumble, haptic feedback.
Yeah,
I
same
mean,
thing.
it's
Yeah.
nice. It's the same thing. And both first party and third party, as well as indies, have taken advantage of it. So that's a nice touch. So it's only going to be a matter of time before the big leagues, such as the Sonys and Microsoft, to see if they can actually dip their toe into the same pool. And Sony's first to the gate. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it, because obviously they're going to take whatever has been done before and just take it to the max. You know what I mean? Even push the boundaries, leaps and bounds. And like I said, with Gran Turismo, I mean, from Gran Turismo to the Astro Boy to Tekken. I mean, you can imagine. I mean, their Rumble's been pretty much supreme anyway, but with the haptic feedback as well on top, for like those little subtleties, it's going to be immense.
Two things. First off, I'm happy that you finally acknowledged the big boys, the big leagues, and that Nintendo's still a small club in a big pond, right?
Oh,
So
I did an exclusive.
You said it. That's all I'm saying. You said it. You don't realize what
We
you
can edit
said.
that part out.
But I know what you mean. Like the idea of, I mean, racing games are perfect for anything to do with the controller. Really, when it comes to tech, you cannot beat a racing game. It's perfect. But yeah, I was thinking about Tekken. Listeners, like Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. The idea of having haptic feedback when you attack high or you attack low or you hit a power move or a special ability or something like that, it's immense. Or if you're playing a football game or a sports game and there's contact, and if again it is down to the developers to put this into their games, but I look at all these features and the one name that always pops to mind is, what is Kojima going to do with these? He comes up with the craziest ideas for peripherals,
Oh, yeah.
and I can't wait. But moving on from the haptic feedback, we have the adaptive triggers. So the L2 and R2 buttons use adaptive triggers, so players can truly feel the tension of your actions, like when drawing a bow to shoot an arrow. So, for example, in Horizon Zero Dawn, when you're drawing an arrow, as you reach in the back of the pad, the button becomes stiffer and harder, which means you're at your maximum. Or when Kratos is throwing his axe, when you get to that pinnacle, the button won't go anymore, and it's like you can really feel it.
Like, I could really need this right now. Or even on like a racing game, if you crash into a wall, potentially they could use it then, or handbrake turns. I mean, there's a number of things they could do with this. But I think it's a really nice addition. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see the inner workings of the pad, to see exactly how that works. I mean, how they're going to create that type of resistance, as and when it's needed. So yeah, I'm really curious to see that, and obviously they're the first ones to even do that. So hats off to Sony.
So this is the big one, and I think this is going to be a huge game changer for a lot of people, and that's the share button evolving to the create button. And again, Sony at it. They're not giving us. They said in the statement I read at the top of the show, when we're ready to talk about it, we'll tell you about it. They're just teasing us, right? They're not giving us everything. But I mean, at the moment, when the PS4 came out, they industry first. It was the share button, which you can get on the Nintendo Switch now. Microsoft have incorporated it into the Xbox Series X controller.
Yeah.
The thing is, on the PS4 now, you click share, you have an option for the screenshot or the video. You have to come out of the game, not exit, like not quit it, just come out of the game, go to live with PlayStation where you can edit. I think the create is kind of signifying that there's some in-game creation tools, isn't there, in the system that can, the moment you press the button, the footage or the picture you've captured, you can go straight into a like a editing suite similar to Nvidia's, and just do it right there on the console. That sounds amazing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, obviously for like Twitch streamers or any streamers, I mean, this is going to be perfect for that. And I guess they're going to be utilizing the SSD as well. You know what I mean? So that's going to be pretty much happening instant. So there's not going to be any waiting around for any rendering time. So as soon as it happens, you can essentially just have it already uploading to your various platforms. So it's going to be nice to see how they utilize it.
Definitely, and you said it there. A lot of people were talking about why is it such a big thing, but you've got to look at it in a sense of big streamers who play the games like Fortnite and Destiny and other people who play Minecraft and FIFA and they want to share it online. This is going to be an amazing tool for them. They can put their handles on there, they can put stickers on there, and you can do that now on the PS4. But there's a process to get there, and I think what Sony are doing with this is they're cutting out all the unnecessary guidance to it.
Streamline. Yeah,
and just like you said, with this, I didn't even think about that with the SSD. It's like you press the button, it's like bang, I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. Yeah,
and it's going to be absolutely stunning. I cannot wait, and I'm really excited to see what they do. And then I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft A have something similar in place, or B will quickly redesign to get something similar in place.
I think after that post. Yeah, I think after that post, after the Xbox event, them showing the pad, pretty much highlighting the pad alone.
And that's it.
They're showing that. Yeah, they've definitely got like a share button or create or a variation of.
My most excited feature is ergonomics. Is that the word I'm trying to think? Ergonomics. Yeah.
I think it's
of the pad, dude. Oh my god! So they've changed the angle of the controller's hand triggers. And they've updated the grip of the DualSense to reach a comfort level suitable for hands of all sizes. Now, for me, obviously, again, you and me, we've gone through the original PlayStation to the original PlayStation with the DualShock to the 6-axis to the DualShock 3 to the DualShock 4. I feel like this is the biggest change since the since the DualShock sticks were introduced to the PlayStation pad. This is like a massive change in PlayStation history for the controller.
For the controller, it is, and it's been a long time coming, really. And I think it's not overdue, but then again, why if it's not broke, why fix it?
And that's what they said in the article, didn't they? The DualShock 4.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was pretty much a perfect pad, and I think this one is just, I guess, like they said, they've got a lot more tech as well to try and pack into this new device now. That's another thing we can talk about. It's probably the price, but to put all that that tech in there to make sure that it feels just as seamless. And apparently, it's going to be lightweight. It's going to be interesting. I can see why they went for the bigger look, and I think it's all I can say is just I can't wait to get my hands on it. They've got the additional grip at the bottom as well, so that should make moving around, reaching over to the analog controls a lot more easier for different size hands. They've also got bigger triggers as well.
Definitely. And it's
2.5.
A much more rounded shape from the DualShock 4 as well. It does look bigger and chubbier, so it looks like it will fit into bigger hands a lot more. But you said it there, the biggest thing is holding it, because I remember being really excited. If you remember when we got a chance to play the PS3 before launch at that special event, and we got to play Resistance and MotorStorm, you did feel detached from the game because there was no feedback in there. There was no rumble in there, nothing, and it was just a small PS3 controller now, and it didn't impress me. But I'm so excited to get this in my hands, and just the feel of it is going to be everything.
I mean, it's got the general curvature. I was looking at it. It's got a general curvature of anyone's palm in it, so that would essentially mean that they can have pretty much like 3 haptic engines, or even 2 at least, on each side, so just to enhance that immersion. It's going to be nice. I'm looking forward to just grabbing it.
And obviously, in terms of the actual pad itself, the charging and battery being a big thing, I'm really happy they mentioned this in the official thing. That I think everybody is universally happy that it's USB-C, right? Yep. You know what I mean? It's about time to maintain. Because who uses micro USBs anymore, right?
Users, as Switch fans, obviously, we've already moved past that. We've been on USB-C for the past 3 years now.
I know. But I mean, again, this is another weird thing. We spoke about it, how the Wired articles were really... Initially, people hated it, but you saw it worked for Sony from a business and a social standpoint. And then we said it last week that as we get closer to launch, people will forget the Sony thing. I didn't realize it was going to be this quick. Because now everybody's saying that, Sony, in terms of the controller, Sony's unveiling was better than Microsoft's, but Microsoft had a whole video to it. Sony just did a post, but the post was stronger than the video. And it was just like, it's unbelievable, and the way they've done it. But
the tease, isn't it? The tease.
It's weird, though. I mean, we haven't even seen a console yet, but we're now talking a revolutionary fastest SSD on the market today,
Yeah,
revolutionary audio tech, and
yeah.
now we're talking about the controller. This machine truly is everything is just ticking the revolution over the evolution of the box, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I mean, talking about the colors as well. I mean, I was just thinking about this. I mean, doesn't that look like a nice high five to the Vita?
Oh yeah,
You know,
definitely,
yeah,
definitely, especially
your
the D-pad.
the D-pad, yeah. And it also made me think. I mean, obviously they've got the RGB lights, going around the touchpad, but there's nothing happening on the action buttons. There's nothing there. So potentially, could we see RGB lights in those buttons? Wouldn't that be sick if they could, somehow make them
I
illuminate as
think the
well?
one thing with the pad is I don't know if you've seen the mock-ups like people have created like Spider-Man ones and stuff,
All
but
right, yeah.
the potential for I mean if you look at the DualShock 4 now, the ranges that are available, there's so many different types of pads, but this has
Yeah.
just got more template to use, so you can really go to work on like when the inevitable Spider-Man sequel
Oh
comes
yeah,
out and you release a
yeah,
limited edition Spider-Man console
yeah,
with the
yeah,
pad
yeah.
or God of War and everything. But I mentioned console for a reason there. Are
Mhm.
we leaning towards a white or a two-toned colored machine, Alex?
Yes, yes. I think we are. Yeah, I'm almost 100% certain that they will go for a two-tone machine, but they need to be careful that they don't go down the Xbox sad route. With 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 obviously 'cause they had the same type of look in it. They had the white and black at the bottom, so hopefully they don't go on that route. But yeah, I think they are. I think they are. But I think it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, a term that I heard a few reviewers look at thrown around was the design language, and now obviously this is going for a more curvaceous look. Will we
Hmm.
see a more curvy system? Because obviously the Xbox is literally a box. Will
Hmm.
the PS5 have a bit more, a bit more sexiness, a bit of sass to it, a bit more creativity, a bit of fluidity to it?
It's going to be interesting, and I like the tactics Sony are using at the moment. Which is we will show you something but not really tell you about it, which is what they did with the controller or with the specs. Is we're going to tell you loads about it, but we're not really going to show you it. It's like they're being so like they're just teasing, and I think the best way to if the Xbox Series X and the way Microsoft have unveiled things to Sony's, I
Mm.
honestly saw the best analogy on Twitter the other day, which was imagine you walk into a strip club
Yeah,
and the stripper gets in front of you and takes everything off in the first 30 seconds.
yeah,
Great, but doesn't really do anything for you.
exactly.
And he goes,
Yeah,
Sony is teasing you, biting the lip,
yeah.
and I pissed myself reading it. But it actually made me think that you know what they are actually doing it. Like that's a great analogy.
Yeah, they're very seductive. Even the type of language they're using to describe the pad, it's very sexual. It's very seductive. You know what I mean? It's like they're using a lot of NLP, but they're definitely they know what they're doing.
Mm.
They're taking their time with this race. Like what to say, slow and steady wins the race, and I think that's definitely an ethos that they're following.
And I think they've learned their lesson from obviously all the dev kit leaks and the leaks from when the PS4 was going to be launched and stuff, because obviously they mentioned that they've hit a key point in development, which is they knew developers, they were going to send the controller out to developers to obviously program it into their games, but they knew there was going to be a leak no matter what. Somebody was going to take a grainy, horrible picture of the pad and it was going to leak everywhere. So they got ahead of it, didn't they? And they controlled the messaging with beautiful artwork. So now when a
Yeah,
developer gets a pad, they're not really showing anything off. Like, oh my god, that yeah, we've seen the pad. Here's the pad. We've already got the beautiful 4K images that Sony have released of the controller.
yeah,
So it was very very
yeah,
smart of them, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. Definitely hearing us.
What do you think the price of the pad will be? Because you mentioned it earlier in this conversation, and I was thinking about that. There's a lot of features to this pad. So to give you a benchmark, PS4 pads 54.99 to 59.99, brand new.
Yeah,
Um, you usually look at 49 to 55 for the normal black one or the normal white one, and then 59
yeah,
for like the camo or the red or the blue or the special colors and stuff. I think the
yeah.
Switch ones are a bit more expensive, aren't they?
Yeah, they're about 70, 80 quid. if you buy them
Oh,
together. Yeah.
damn.
Yeah, it ain't cheap. In fact, even more now.
Yeah.
So stock is very low, so price is very high. So sell your Switch now. But yeah,
Honestly, I think you know I don't see the pad breaking 70 quid max. That's the maximum I see the pad at. I
yeah,
think that I mean, you look at the tech we're talking about.
yeah,
It's not new tech. It's tech that has been available in third party controllers. Like really expensive Astro PC pads that are like £200-300.
yeah.
The Elite Xbox controller, which is like £190. They
Mm.
get adaptive triggers and everything in there, but the components will be cheaper than they're not brand new, like off the mark and things. So I think Sony will be able to keep it down. I think anything around that 80 quid mark is suicide for them. I think a lot
Uh,
of people will be like, I'm not buying a second pad for that. You just come around with your pad.
I really think I do think it's going to be it's going to be up there. I do think that it's going to be around at least 70. Um, yes, at least 70, 79.99. I could easily see them coming out with that. If it's 69.99, fantastic. But I think it might be towards the higher end. I mean, think about it, they've got the mic in there. They've got the haptic feedback in there as well. The new design aesthetic as well. It just looks like they're trying to sell like a nice premium accessory, and they know that the Xbox fans lap it up, and they might be trying to lean into that market with the pads for the PS4. PS4, the PS5 market. But only time will tell.
Excellent. That's it.
Yeah,
So your final opinion, before we get into two questions we got from the listeners, your final opinion on the controller.
PS5. Sony has brought sexy back. That's my final opinion about it. Yeah. They've definitely smashed this one. And think about it. I mean, the way they've drip feeded it. I mean, now they've talked about the innards. They've talked about the spec. Sorry, they've talked about the spec. So people have already wet themselves about that, and now they're showing you what it's going to feel like to control that spec without even showing anything else. So it's just making the whole sensation, the whole immersion around the PS5 even greater. So I think, definitely they're hitting all the marks with the right cadence as well, beautifully paced. Even though some people did argue and say maybe they're playing second fiddle to Xbox, that they're not actually ready yet. But I don't think that's the case with Sony. I think they're definitely ahead of the mark, and they're just taking their sweet time to make sure that everything is perfect for launch. So yeah.
As we say that as well, just like that, 5 million likes in 24 hours on Instagram. It's breaking records already. It's the second. It might be first now, but when I last checked, it was the second highest video game post of all time, behind the PS5 logo. So yeah, you can see people are obviously liking that. And speaking of obviously people and their opinions on it, we had two questions from the listeners. So one's about the controller, one isn't. So with the unveil of the controller, how much do you think it will cost? I'm worried it will be really expensive, as it has way more features. We kind of spoke about that a couple of minutes ago, but what was your final price, did you think? I'm going to say 70 quid, 69.99.
You're saying 69.99, which would probably be the figure, but I think I would have been surprised to go for 79.99. They'll make sure that people look after their controller. Yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
And then again, they could also have two different controllers. They could have one with obviously the premium feature, what we're showing now, and they could have one which would just be like more towards like a DualShock 5. So they could come with that.
I don't know. I just think everything Sony, like Sony, just seem to be like, we're going all out revolution. This is the biggest step ever between a console generation, and they're showing that upper mark premium. And I think they know that people now. You think about how much everybody has iPhones or Samsungs, and they're spending £700-800 over a year on it. They're spending so much money on tablets and that. I think Sony realised that, look, this is a games console, whack FIFA, Call of Duty, Madden and everything on there. People will spend the money to play it, and let's give them the premium. And I feel like this is the start of Skynet, the start of the Matrix with Sony and what the PlayStation are doing. But the last question, and I like this question, again, it's just something the listener wants to know. listened to your show last week. It was great to hear from you two. Great offering opposite opinions. What I want to know is, what was your first introduction into PlayStation? So I'll go first, so then obviously it'll give you time to think. Mine was, we were going to get it for Christmas. So the PlayStation 1 had just come out in Europe. We were living in Scotland at the time. Me and my younger brother, we accidentally found where they hid it. And every time they went to work, we would open it, play it, box it back up before they came home, and then put it under the thing. So come Christmas Day, when my dad was like, I'll help you set it up, we were like, no, we already know. And the memory card already had game saves and everything on there because we were already doing it. But yeah, it was the original PlayStation. We had 5 games. I can't remember which ones. Actually, let's see if I do. There was the original Resident Evil, which was too scary. Once we saw the first zombie, we took the disc out
really like,
and we sellotaped the box. We did. So it was the original Resident Evil. It was Ridge Racer, Shell Shock, Demo Disc, and Tekken.
And Tekken.
The introduction was there, 3D gaming all the way throughout. But
there it is.
What was your introduction to PlayStation?
All right. Well, the first time I ever, I think, saw one, I went to a friend's house and I saw an FMV. I saw a video on the screen. I was thinking, oh, that looks really cool. The camera's panning around in ridiculous ways, and I was like, oh, that's actually CGI. And then I realized that was actually the beginning to a game, and that was my first introduction to fully motion videos. And then I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's a PlayStation." I was like, "What?" Then obviously that. I think it reminded me of what there used to be a TV show called Bad Influence, and I remember them talking about it back in the day. That there was this new system coming out from Sony. But anyway, eventually, I think it was Christmas came around, and it was a new addition to the family. We had, I think, Tekken 2 was one of the first games that I remember having. And then there was also the classic, which is still one of my favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Solid.
What a game. What a game.
Yeah, that was the game that really introduced me to the system and the inner workings of the genius that Sony had put together. I mean, and obviously with Kojima sprinkling his magic. It was brilliant. Brilliant.
Excellent. Well, listeners, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully episode 3 is about the SSD. Hopefully not, actually, because then that means Sony's dropped another big piece of news and we can actually talk about that instead, But if nothing goes, if Sony don't reveal anything between now and then, thank you very much for listening. Stay home. Stay safe, everybody. Look after yourselves, and we will see you next week.
Hello, citizens of
PlayStation.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world.
Ridge Racer!
This is